The phenomenon of the Order of Nine Angles, ONA, is one of the most controversial and enigmatic groups within the realm of modern occultism. Established in the 1970s in Britain, it combines elements of Satanism, neo-paganism, and political extremism. While it has remained relatively obscure compared to mainstream occult groups, its provocative ideology and alleged connections to violence have drawn increasing scrutiny from law enforcement and media around the world. To understand ONA, one must delve into its origins, key figures, and the factors that have propelled it into the public eye. The origins of the name, Order of Nine Angles. The group's cryptic name, Order of Nine Angles, reflects its esoteric nature. Interpretations vary, but within ONA's writings, it is often associated with the idea of 9 dimensions or metaphysical paths. These paths are said to connect the individual to cosmic forces transcending ordinary human perception. This concept reflects the group's goal of pushing boundaries, both physical and metaphysical, to achieve a transformation beyond traditional moral or societal constraints. What is the ONA? At its core, ONA is a loosely organized collective of individuals dedicated to exploring and embodying an extreme form of spiritual transgression. It rejects mainstream morality, embraces darkness as a path to enlightenment, and seeks to cultivate individual strength through both occult practices and real-world challenges. Unlike conventional religious groups, ONA emphasizes personal autonomy, often to a dangerous extent, encouraging adherents to test themselves through ethically ambiguous or even criminal acts. ONA's teachings draw from a mix of Satanism, pagan rituals, and the writings of philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche. These influences coalesce into a philosophy that glorifies strength, domination, and the rejection of societal norms. The group also flirts with political extremism, especially far-right ideologies, further amplifying its controversial reputation. A brief history and key figures. Founding in Britain during the 1970s, ONA emerged in the shadow of a broader occult revival in post-war Britain. This period saw a surge in interest in mysticism, witchcraft, and alternative spiritualities, fueled by dissatisfaction with conventional religion. Unlike Wicca or Thelema, which sought to harmonize spirituality with ethics, ONA positioned itself as a darker, more confrontational alternative. Its writings, which appeared in self-published pamphlets and zines, challenged readers to embrace forbidden paths. David Myatt's role. David Myatt, a British philosopher, is often regarded as the mastermind behind ONA's ideology, though he is denied being its sole creator. Myatt's life is a study in extremes, known for his involvement in neo-Nazi movements and later flirtations with Islamic extremism. He embodies the transgressive ethos of ONA. His philosophical works, including the Sinister Tradition and the Star Game, form the backbone of the group's teachings, blending esoteric mysticism with calls for radical personal transformation. Why has ONA captured public attention, media, and law enforcement interest? ONA's emphasis on transgression has led to numerous allegations of criminal activity. Reports of its involvement in ritualistic violence and connections to extremist organizations have turned it into a subject of international concern. Its decentralized structure and cryptic doctrines make it difficult to track, adding to its mystique. Law enforcement agencies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe have investigated ONA due to suspected links to acts of terrorism, including the case of Ethan Melzer, a U.S. soldier accused of plotting attacks inspired by ONA ideology. These incidents, though not definitively linked to the group as a whole, underscored its potential influence on vulnerable or radicalized individuals. The fusion of occultism and extremism. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of ONA is its deliberate merging of occult practices with far-right extremism. While other occult groups often distance themselves from political ideologies, ONA embraces them as a means of achieving its aims. This blending of the mystical with the political has made ONA uniquely provocative and uniquely dangerous. The Order of Nine Angles represents a dark and polarizing force in modern spirituality. Its deliberate rejection of societal norms, combined with its controversial teachings and alleged criminal ties, make it a subject of both fascination and fear. Understanding ONA's origins, philosophy, and influence is essential to unpacking its role in the broader landscape of modern occultism and extremism. Structure and ideology of ONA. Foundational ideologies. The ideology of the Order of Nine Angles, ONA, is complex and multifaceted, rooted in a synthesis of occult philosophy, political extremism, and radical individualism. At its heart lies a rejection of conventional morality, which the group views as a tool for societal control. ONA encourages adherents to break free from these limitations and embrace a path of personal and spiritual empowerment through transgression. ONA's philosophy is disseminated through a series of writings that form the foundation of its teachings. Among the most significant are the Sinister Tradition. This work outlines ONA's core principles, including its disdain for modern morality and its vision of a new, sinister way of life. The Black Book of Satan, a ritualistic text that serves as a guide for performing ONA's ceremonies and understanding its occult framework. These texts encourage practitioners to view the world through a lens of sinister dialectics, a process of personal growth achieved through conflict, transgression, and overcoming adversity. Rejection of morality. A defining characteristic of ONA's ideology is its opposition to moral absolutes. Adherents are encouraged to embrace acts that society deems taboo, not as ends in themselves, but as a means of personal evolution. This often includes actions that test one's psychological and emotional limits, fostering a mindset of detachment and resilience. The pursuit of transgression. Central to ONA's teachings is the idea that personal growth comes through transgression, deliberately violating norms, laws, or ethical boundaries. This principle aligns with Nietzschean ideas of overcoming conventional morality to achieve a higher state of being. For ONA members, transgression is both a philosophical act and a practical tool for breaking free from societal constraints, decentralization, and autonomy. Unlike traditional religious or occult groups, ONA lacks a centralized hierarchy or formal leadership. This decentralized structure has allowed it to evade scrutiny while empowering individual members to interpret and apply its teachings as they see fit. ONA refers to itself as a neo-tribal network consisting of small, semi-autonomous groups called Nexians. The concept of insight roles. A distinctive feature of ONA's methodology is the use of insight roles, a practice that encourages members to infiltrate organizations such as the military, law enforcement, or extremist political groups as a way of gaining experience and exerting influence. Through these roles, individuals are expected to challenge their own limits while advancing ONA's objectives. Hierarchical titles. While ONA rejects rigid organizational structures, it does employ a loose system of ranks, ranging from neophytes to adepts. Advancement within the group is based on one's ability to complete specific challenges, such as insight roles, participation in rituals, or the creation of new Nexians. This merit-based system aligns with the group's emphasis on personal strength and autonomy. Occult practices and rituals. The role of rituals. ONA's rituals are designed to cultivate inner strength and connect practitioners with what the group refers to as the acausal realm, a metaphysical plane beyond ordinary human understanding. These rituals often incorporate elements of Satanism, paganism, and chaos magic, reflecting the eclectic nature of ONA's beliefs. Notable ceremonies. Sacrificial rituals. One of the most controversial aspects of ONA is its alleged advocacy of human sacrifice, referred to as Opfer. According to ONA texts, such sacrifices are intended to remove societal weakness and further the spiritual development of the practitioner. While there is little concrete evidence to confirm that these rituals are regularly practiced, their inclusion in ONA's writings has fueled public outrage and media speculation. The Star Game. This esoteric ritual involves a symbolic board game designed to represent and manipulate metaphysical forces. Participants use it to develop strategic thinking and deepen their understanding of ONA's cosmology. Philosophical underpinnings. ONA's practices are heavily influenced by the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, particularly his concepts of the Übermensch, Overman, and the will to power. These ideas are integrated into the group's rituals and teachings, emphasizing the transformation of the individual into a self-empowered being. A fusion of magic, nihilism, and politics. ONA distinguishes itself from other occult groups through its blending of mystical practices with radical political ideologies. Members are encouraged to view both magic and politics as tools for achieving a greater purpose. This fusion of the spiritual and the political is evident in the group's writings, which often frame occult practices as a means of dismantling societal structures and creating a new order. The structure and ideology of ONA reflect a deliberate attempt to combine spiritual exploration with radical individualism and political extremism. By rejecting traditional morality, embracing transgression, and promoting decentralized action, the group has created a framework that is as enigmatic as it is controversial. Its practices, while rooted in occult traditions, push boundaries in ways that have drawn both fascination and condemnation from outsiders. Connections to extremism, the intersection of ideologies. The Order of Nine Angles, ONA, occupies a unique position at the crossroads of occultism and political extremism. While many occult groups focus solely on spiritual or esoteric practices, ONA has embraced a broader agenda, merging mystical exploration with radical and violent ideologies. This integration of occultism and extremism is one of the primary reasons the group has garnered attention from law enforcement and counterterrorism experts worldwide. Far-right influences. A significant aspect of ONA's political ideology is its alignment with far-right extremism, particularly neo-Nazism. ONA writings frequently advocate for the destruction of modern society, which they view as decadent and corrupt. This aligns with far-right narratives, calling for a return to a perceived golden age of strength, order, and purity. ONA's connection to neo-Nazism is not incidental. It reflects the influence of key figures like David Myatt, whose involvement in neo-Nazi groups such as Combat 18 has drawn scrutiny. Myatt's philosophical works often blur the lines between spiritual transcendence and racial ideology, framing the destruction of societal norms as a necessary step towards spiritual and cultural renewal. Extremism as a tool for ONA. Political extremism is not just an ideological stance, but a method of advancing its broader goals. By encouraging members to infiltrate extremist organizations through practices like insight roles, ONA seeks to spread its influence and destabilize societal structures. This tactic underscores the group's commitment to transgression and transformation, using extremism as a vehicle for achieving spiritual and societal upheaval. Known cases and controversies. David Myatt and Combat 18. David Myatt's association with Combat 18, a violent neo-Nazi group, exemplifies ONA's ties to political extremism. Combat 18, known for its promotion of white supremacy and anti-Semitic violence, provided a platform for Myatt's ideas. His writings during this period, including texts advocating for race war, reveal a deliberate effort to merge political extremism with ONA's occult philosophy. Myatt later distanced himself from neo-Nazism and claimed to have embraced Islam, but his role in shaping ONA's ideology remains a point of contention. Ethan Melzer case. One of the most high-profile incidents involving ONA occurred in 2020 when Ethan Melzer, a U.S. Army soldier, was arrested for plotting a terrorist attack. Melzer, influenced by ONA teachings, sought to orchestrate an ambush against his own military unit. Prosecutors alleged that Melzer's actions were motivated by ONA's emphasis on chaos and transgression. His case highlighted the group's potential to radicalize individuals and inspire acts of violence. Links to Atomwaffen Division. ONA has also been linked to Atomwaffen Division, AWD, a neo-Nazi terrorist group active in the United States and Europe. AWD, known for its violent propaganda and ties to multiple murders, has drawn inspiration from ONA's writings. The group's use of occult symbolism and its glorification of violence mirror ONA's ideology, suggesting a shared philosophical foundation. Reports and reactions from authorities, intelligence and law enforcement agencies in several countries have identified ONA as a potential threat due to its connections to extremism and its promotion of violence. In the United Kingdom, ONA has been included in reports on far-right extremism, with officials warning about its influence on radicalized individuals. Similarly, in the United States, ONA has been mentioned in counterterrorism briefings, particularly in relation to cases like Ethan Melzer's. Public and legal responses, efforts to curb ONA's influence, have included both public awareness campaigns and legal actions. Some countries have considered banning ONA as a hate group, citing its promotion of extremist ideologies and alleged involvement in criminal activities. These measures, however, face challenges due to ONA's decentralized structure, which makes it difficult to define the group as a cohesive organization. The role of occultism in recruitment. ONA's use of occultism as a recruitment tool sets it apart from other extremist groups. By blending esoteric rituals with far-right ideology, ONA appeals to individuals seeking a sense of purpose and identity beyond traditional political or religious frameworks. This approach is particularly effective in targeting disaffected youth who may be drawn to the group's emphasis on power, transformation, and rebellion against societal norms. The dark allure of mysticism. The mysticism inherent in ONA's teachings adds an additional layer of appeal for recruits. Through rituals, symbols, and enigmatic writings, ONA creates an aura of mystery and exclusivity, which can be enticing to those seeking to belong to a clandestine and seemingly elite group. Radicalization through insight roles. The practice of insight roles further facilitates recruitment and radicalization by encouraging members to immerse themselves in extremist groups or positions of authority. ONA not only spreads its ideology, but also reinforces the radicalization of its members. This tactic blurs the lines between personal exploration and active participation in extremism, making it difficult to disentangle ONA's occult philosophy from its political agenda, public and academic debate. The question of ONA's influence, ONA's impact, remains a topic of debate among academics and counterterrorism experts. Some argue that the group's influence is overstated, pointing to the limited number of confirmed members and the speculative nature of many allegations. Others contend that ONA's decentralized structure and ideological flexibility make it uniquely dangerous, as it can inspire acts of violence without direct coordination, extremism, or mystification. Critics of ONA have also questioned whether its extremism is a deliberate strategy or a form of mystification. By incorporating shocking elements like references to human sacrifice and neo-Nazism, ONA may be seeking to provoke outrage and attract attention, rather than actively promoting violence. ONA's connections to extremism highlight the group's ability to blur the boundaries between spiritual exploration and political radicalism. Through figures like David Myatt, cases like Ethan Melzer, and links to organizations like Atomwaffen Division, ONA has established itself as a uniquely provocative entity. Whether viewed as a genuine threat or an elaborate mystification, its influence on the intersection of occultism and extremism is undeniable. Case studies. David Myatt, a controversial figure. David Myatt is one of the most enigmatic and polarizing figures associated with the Order of Nine Angles, ONA. His life story reflects the group's philosophy of transgression and transformation, spanning multiple ideological extremes and leaving a lasting impact on both occultism and far-right extremism. Early life and neo-Nazi involvement. Born in 1950 in England, Myatt became involved in far-right politics at an early age, joining the British neo-Nazi scene in the 1960s and 70s. He eventually became a prominent figure in groups such as the National Socialist Movement and Combat 18. Myatt's writings during this period, including manifestos advocating for racial violence, positioned him as a leading ideologue within the movement. The ONA connection. Myatt's association with ONA is widely debated, with some claiming he founded the group, while others suggest he merely influenced its development. Regardless, his philosophical contributions, such as the Sinister Tradition, have shaped ONA's core ideology. Myatt's writings merge occult mysticism with calls for societal destruction, framing both as pathways to spiritual transcendence. Islamic extremism and conversion. In the late 1990s, Myatt shocked both his supporters and critics by converting to Islam, adopting the name Abdulaziz ibn Myatt. During this period, he aligned himself with Islamist extremist groups and authored texts praising jihad. Myatt's defenders claim this shift was a genuine spiritual transformation, while skeptics argue it was an extension of his practice of insight roles, immersing himself in ideologically extreme environments as a means of personal growth. Later, life, an alleged renunciation. In the 2010s, Myatt publicly renounced his extremist past, declaring his commitment to a pacifistic spiritual philosophy. Critics remain divided on the sincerity of this renunciation, given his history of ideological fluidity. Regardless, Myatt's journey epitomizes ONA's emphasis on transformation through conflict and the rejection of societal norms. Ethan Melzer, a case of radicalization. Ethan Melzer, a former U.S. Army soldier, is one of the most infamous individuals linked to ONA. His case illustrates the group's potential to inspire acts of violence and infiltrate institutions. Background and arrest. In 2020, Melzer was arrested and charged with plotting a terrorist attack against his own military unit. Prosecutors revealed that Melzer had shared sensitive information with a neo-Nazi group aiming to facilitate an ambush. His motivation was reportedly influenced by ONA teachings, particularly its emphasis on chaos and transgression. The role of ONA in Melzer's radicalization. Investigators identified ONA literature in Melzer's possession, including texts promoting sacrificial rituals and the destabilization of societal structures. These writings, combined with his association with other extremist groups, painted a picture of a young man radicalized by a blend of occultism and far-right ideology. Impact of the case. Melzer's arrest brought ONA into the spotlight, prompting renewed scrutiny from law enforcement and counterterrorism experts. The case underscored the group's ability to attract and radicalize individuals within positions of power, raising concerns about its broader influence. Connections to Atomwaffen Division. The Atomwaffen Division, AWD, a neo-Nazi terrorist group, represents a disturbing intersection between ONA's occult philosophy and far-right extremism. Active in the United States, Europe, and beyond, AWD has been linked to several murders and acts of domestic terrorism. Shared ideological ground. AWD's use of ONA texts and symbols reflects a shared emphasis on violence, nihilism, and societal destruction. For example, AWD propaganda often incorporates ONA's esoteric imagery, blending occult mysticism with calls for racial violence. This fusion of ideas appeals to individuals seeking both spiritual and political radicalization. Influence on AWD members. Several AWD members have expressed admiration for ONA's teachings, with some reportedly incorporating ONA rituals into their personal practices. This blending of extremist ideologies highlights the fluidity with which ONA's philosophy can adapt to different contexts, making it a potent tool for radicalization. Law enforcement responses. Monitoring and investigation. Law enforcement agencies in the US, UK, and Europe have increased their focus on ONA in light of cases like Ethan Melzer's and the group's association with AWD. Efforts include monitoring online activity, infiltrating Nexians, local ONA groups, and sharing intelligence across borders. Despite these measures, ONA's decentralized nature makes it difficult to target effectively. Counterterrorism operations. Some countries have taken direct action against individuals and groups associated with ONA. For example, in Germany, authorities have conducted raids on suspected ONA-affiliated networks, seizing materials and arresting individuals linked to far-right extremism. These operations demonstrate the growing recognition of ONA as a transnational threat. Challenges in addressing ONA's influence. Decentralization and secrecy. ONA's lack of formal leadership and its emphasis on individual autonomy pose significant challenges for law enforcement. Unlike hierarchical extremist groups, ONA operates as a loose network of independent Nexians, making it difficult to track or disrupt. Mythology versus reality. A recurring challenge in addressing ONA's influence is distinguishing between its mythological narratives and actual practices. While ONA texts contain references to human sacrifice and other extreme acts, evidence of these practices being carried out remains sparse. This ambiguity complicates efforts to assess the group's true threat level. The case studies of David Myatt, Ethan Melzer, and the Atomwaffen Division illustrate the diverse ways in which ONA's ideology has manifested in real-world contexts, whether through philosophical influence, individual radicalization, or organizational collaboration. ONA's reach extends far beyond its occult origins. These examples underscore the need for continued vigilance and nuanced understanding of the group's impact on both spiritual and political extremism. Criticism and doubts. The debate over ONA's real influence, the Order of Nine Angles, ONA, has long been a subject of intense debate among academics, counterterrorism experts, and occult researchers. While some view it as a dangerous and subversive group capable of inspiring acts of violence, others argue that its reputation is exaggerated, rooted more in myth and shock value than in measurable threat. Is ONA a genuine threat? Critics who downplay ONA's influence point to the following: lack of confirmed membership. Estimates of ONA's size are highly speculative, with some suggesting it consists of only a few dozen active members scattered across the globe. This contrasts sharply with its outsized media presence and perceived influence. Mythology over action. Much of ONA's notoriety stems from its writings, which include references to extreme acts such as ritual murder. However, concrete evidence of these actions remains limited. Some argue that these claims are more symbolic or performative than real. The case for concern. On the other hand, proponents of the view that ONA poses a serious threat highlight connections to real-world violence. Cases like Ethan Melzer and the Atomwaffen Division demonstrate the group's ability to inspire and attract individuals willing to commit violent acts. Radicalization potential. ONA's philosophy of transgression, combined with its decentralized structure, makes it a potent tool for radicalizing vulnerable individuals. Controversy surrounding offer rituals. One of the most debated aspects of ONA is its alleged practice of offer, a term referring to sacrificial rituals. ONA texts describe the concept of human sacrifice as a means of removing weak individuals from society and advancing the spiritual development of the practitioner. This claim has drawn widespread condemnation and fueled public fears about the group's activities. Evidence versus allegations. Lack of convincing evidence. Despite the sensational nature of these claims, there is little direct evidence to suggest that ONA members have carried out such rituals. Investigations into alleged sacrificial acts have often resulted in dead ends, leading some to dismiss the claims as fictional or exaggerated. Symbolic interpretations. Some researchers argue that references to sacrifice in ONA texts are symbolic rather than literal, representing the destruction of old beliefs or weaknesses rather than physical acts of violence. Impact on public perception. The offer controversy has played a significant role in shaping public perception of ONA. Media outlets frequently highlight these claims, amplifying the group's reputation as a dangerous and secretive cult. This focus on sensationalism, however, risks overshadowing more concrete concerns about ONA's connections to extremism. Authenticity of membership challenges in identifying members. One of the central issues in studying ONA is the difficulty of identifying genuine adherents. The group's decentralized structure and emphasis on personal autonomy allow individuals to claim affiliation without any formal membership process. This has led to imposters and opportunists. Some individuals may invoke ONA's name or use its symbols without adhering to its philosophy, complicating efforts to assess its true scope. Overlapping affiliations. Many individuals linked to ONA also participate in other extremist groups or subcultures, blurring the lines between genuine membership and casual influence. The role of the Internet. The rise of the Internet has further muddied the waters. Online forums, social media platforms, and the darknet have become hubs for ONA-related discussions, enabling both genuine members and casual observers to engage with its ideology. This digital presence has expanded ONA's reach, while making it harder to discern the group's actual structure. Expert perspectives, sociologists and religious studies, scholars, academics studying new religious movements often frame ONA as part of a broader trend of countercultural spirituality. They highlight its rejection of mainstream values and embrace of radical individualism as hallmarks of postmodern occultism. From this perspective, ONA as a symbol, the group is less a cohesive organization and more a symbol of rebellion against societal norms, attracting individuals who feel alienated or disillusioned. Parallels to other movements, some scholars compare ONA to other fringe groups that blend spirituality with political extremism, such as certain esoteric neo-pagan organizations. Security and counterterrorism analysts, experts in counterterrorism, take a more cautious view, emphasizing ONA's potential to inspire real-world harm. They point to use of violent rhetoric. ONA's writings glorify chaos, violence, and destruction, which can resonate with individuals seeking justification for extremist acts. Infiltration strategies, practices like insight roles, increase the risk of ONA-affiliated individuals influencing institutions or radicalizing others. Media representations, ONA's portrayal in the media, often vacillates between fascination and alarm. Sensational headlines about human sacrifice and neo-Nazi ties have amplified the group's mystique, but they also risk misrepresenting its true nature. Sensationalism and its consequences, oversimplification. Media reports frequently reduce ONA to its most shocking elements, such as its alleged sacrificial practices or far-right connections. This approach can obscure the group's more nuanced philosophical underpinnings. Attraction through infamy. Sensational coverage may inadvertently attract individuals intrigued by ONA's reputation as a forbidden or taboo organization. Balanced reporting. Some investigative journalists and documentary filmmakers have sought to provide a more balanced view, exploring ONA's history, ideology, and controversies without resorting to exaggeration. These efforts contribute to a more informed public discourse while avoiding the pitfalls of sensationalism. The criticisms and doubts surrounding ONA reflect the group's enigmatic and polarizing nature. Whether viewed as a genuine threat or a provocative myth, ONA continues to challenge traditional frameworks for understanding extremism, spirituality, and countercultural movements. Separating fact from fiction remains a crucial task for those seeking to address its impact effectively. The contemporary context of ONA in the Internet age. The rise of the Internet has transformed the order of 9 angles, ONA, amplifying its reach and enabling its ideas to spread far beyond the insular Nexians of the 1970s and 1980s. Online platforms have allowed ONA to adapt to modern technology while maintaining its decentralized and enigmatic nature. Digital platforms and dissemination. Darknet and online forums. The darknet and niche forums have become key hubs for the exchange of ONA literature and rituals. These platforms offer anonymity, attracting individuals who are curious about ONA or aligned with its extremist ideologies. Social media. Social media platforms, while less frequently associated with ONA, have occasionally hosted pages and accounts sharing ONA content. Algorithms often inadvertently promote such material, spreading it to broader audiences. Impact on recruitment. The Internet has democratized access to ONA's teachings, enabling individuals from around the world to encounter and engage with its ideology. This has led to self-initiation. Many individuals now claim affiliation with ONA without any direct contact with other members, relying instead on digital resources to guide their practices. Globalization of membership. The Internet has expanded ONA's geographic reach, facilitating its presence in regions such as the United States, Eastern Europe, and Asia. Global reach and influence. United States. The U.S. has become a significant locus of ONA activity in recent years, largely due to its intersection with neo-Nazi groups like Atomwaffen Division. American adherents often emphasize ONA's far-right elements, blending its occult teachings with white supremacist ideology. Cases like Ethan Melzer highlight the dangers of this synthesis, as individuals drawn to ONA can exploit its doctrines to justify acts of violence. Eastern Europe has also seen an uptick in ONA-inspired groups, often intertwining its philosophy with local nationalist movements. The region's history of political extremism and occult revivalism provides fertile ground for ONA's ideology to take root. Asia and other regions, while less prominent, ONA's influence has begun to spread to other parts of the world, including Asia. This expansion reflects the group's adaptability as individuals and Nexians incorporate local cultural and religious elements into their interpretations of ONA teachings. Connections to new extremist movements. Neo-Nazi and accelerationist groups. ONA's ties to neo-Nazi organizations like Atomwaffen Division are well documented, but the group's philosophy also aligns with broader accelerationist movements. These groups advocate for societal collapse as a means of rebuilding a purer order, mirroring ONA's emphasis on destruction and transgression. Subcultural influence. ONA's aesthetic and philosophy have infiltrated certain fringe subcultures, including black metal music. Elements of ONA's imagery and ideology resonate with the black metal scene, which often glorifies themes of darkness, chaos, and rebellion. Online radical subcultures. ONA's decentralized model and cryptic writings appeal to members of online communities dedicated to fringe ideologies and conspiracy theories. Current status of ONA active or declining. Determining ONA's current status is challenging due to its lack of formal structure. Observers are divided on whether the group remains a cohesive entity or has devolved into a loosely affiliated network of individuals inspired by its teachings. Indicators of activity. The continued publication of ONA-related material, alongside cases of individuals acting in its name, suggests that its influence persists. Signs of decline. Some researchers argue that ONA's notoriety has led to increased scrutiny, deterring potential recruits and weakening its appeal. Law enforcement and public awareness. Growing attention from law enforcement and media has complicated ONA's ability to operate covertly. Efforts to monitor its online activity and disrupt its Nexians have yielded some success, though the group's decentralized nature remains a significant obstacle. The role of modern technology in shaping ONA artificial intelligence and propaganda. As technology evolves, ONA and its adherents may explore new methods of spreading their ideology. Artificial intelligence could be used to generate propaganda or automate the dissemination of ONA teachings, further complicating efforts to counteract its influence. Cryptocurrency and funding. While there is no concrete evidence linking ONA to cryptocurrency, the anonymity it provides could appeal to members seeking to fund their activities without detection. ONA's contemporary context reflects both its adaptability and the challenges it poses to those seeking to counter its influence. By leveraging the internet, embracing global connections, and aligning itself with new extremist movements, ONA has maintained its relevance while remaining elusive. Its status as a decentralized and enigmatic entity complicates efforts to assess its true impact, making it a persistent, if enigmatic, force in the modern era. Conclusion and reflection. The significance of ONA in the modern world. The Order of Nine Angles ONA occupies a unique position at the intersection of spirituality, extremism, and subculture. While its roots lie in obscure occult practices and countercultural rebellion, its evolution into a global phenomenon highlights deeper societal and ideological challenges. ONA forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the boundaries of free expression, the appeal of radical ideologies, and the power of decentralized movements in the digital age. Understanding ONA's legacy. ONA's impact extends far beyond its relatively small and fragmented membership. Its teachings have influenced extremist movements, contributed to real-world violence, and sparked debates about the limits of religious freedom and ideological tolerance. Whether viewed as a serious threat or an elaborate performance, its role as a provocateur cannot be denied. Current status of ONA active or declining. Determining ONA's current status is challenging due to its lack of formal structure. Observers are divided on whether the group remains a cohesive entity or has devolved into a loosely affiliated network of individuals inspired by its teachings. Indicators of activity. The continued publication of ONA-related material, alongside cases of individuals acting in its name, suggests that its influence persists. Signs of decline. Some researchers argue that ONA's notoriety has led to increased scrutiny, deterring potential recruits and weakening its appeal. Law enforcement and public awareness. Growing attention from law enforcement and media has complicated ONA's ability to operate covertly. Efforts to monitor its online activity and disrupt its nexians have yielded some success, though the group's decentralized nature remains a significant obstacle. The role of modern technology in shaping ONA artificial intelligence and propaganda. As technology evolves, ONA and its adherents may explore new methods of spreading their ideology. Artificial intelligence could be used to generate propaganda or automate the dissemination of ONA teachings, further complicating efforts to counteract its influence. Cryptocurrency and funding. While there is no concrete evidence linking ONA to cryptocurrency, the anonymity it provides could appeal to members seeking to fund their activities without detection. ONA's contemporary context reflects both its adaptability and the challenges it poses to those seeking to counter its influence. By leveraging the internet, embracing global connections, and aligning itself with new extremist movements, ONA has maintained its relevance while remaining elusive. Its status as a decentralized and enigmatic entity complicates efforts to assess its true impact, making it a persistent, if enigmatic, force in the modern era. Conclusion and reflection. The significance of ONA in the modern world. The Order of Nine Angles ONA occupies a unique position at the intersection of spirituality, extremism, and subculture. While its roots lie in obscure occult practices and countercultural rebellion, its evolution into a global phenomenon highlights deeper societal and ideological challenges. ONA forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the boundaries of free expression, the appeal of radical ideologies, and the power of decentralized movements in the digital age. Understanding ONA's legacy. ONA's impact extends far beyond its relatively small and fragmented membership. Its teachings have influenced extremist movements, contributed to real-world violence, and sparked debates about the limits of religious freedom and ideological tolerance. Whether viewed as a serious threat or an elaborate performance, its role as a provocateur cannot be denied. Reflections on extremism and ideology. The blurring of boundaries. ONA's fusion of occultism and extremism exemplifies the increasingly blurred lines between spiritual and political ideologies. Its philosophy of transgression deliberately dismantles traditional categories, encouraging adherents to find power in chaos and ambiguity. This approach, while intellectually intriguing, carries significant risks when it intersects with real-world violence. Radicalization in the digital age. The internet has played a pivotal role in amplifying ONA's reach and enabling it to attract a global audience. Digital platforms have not only facilitated the spread of its teachings, but also provided new opportunities for radicalization. Cases like Ethan Melzer demonstrate how individuals, particularly young and disaffected, can be drawn into ONA's orbit through a combination of ideological allure and online propaganda. Challenges for law enforcement and society. Addressing groups like ONA requires a nuanced approach that balances security concerns with the protection of civil liberties. Blanket bans or heavy-handed crackdowns risk driving such groups further underground, while ignoring their activities allows their influence to grow unchecked. Effective responses must consider the complexities of decentralized and ideologically fluid movements. Lessons for the future. The role of education, one of the most effective tools for countering the appeal of groups like ONA, is education. By fostering critical thinking and promoting awareness of extremist tactics, society can help inoculate individuals against the allure of radical ideologies. Programs that address the psychological and social factors contributing to radicalization are particularly important. Media responsibility. Media outlets play a crucial role in shaping public perceptions of groups like ONA. While sensational coverage can amplify fear and misunderstanding, Balanced and well-researched reporting can help demystify these movements and encourage informed discussions. Avoiding over-exaggeration or undue glorification is essential to preventing unintended consequences. The importance of vigilance, ONA's adaptability, and decentralized nature make it a particularly challenging target for counterterrorism efforts. Governments, law enforcement agencies, and civil society must remain vigilant in monitoring its activities while avoiding approaches that may infringe on fundamental freedoms. Final reflections. ONA is more than an occult group or a fringe ideology. It is a mirror reflecting broader societal anxieties and transformations. Its emphasis on individualism, rejection of norms, and pursuit of transgression taps into universal human desires for meaning, identity, and autonomy. However, the consequences of its philosophy, both for individuals and society, serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unbridled extremism as society grapples with the challenges posed by movements like ONA. It must strive for a balanced response that protects both public safety and the ideals of freedom and tolerance. The lessons learned from studying ONA's rise, impact, and continued evolution can inform broader efforts to address the root causes of extremism in all its forms.